you rascals and scoundrels, listen up, for we are about to tell you a story about one of the greatest men who has ever walked this earth. A magic man, a warrior, a patriarch, our hero. So sit back and make yourselves comfortable and be prepared to be amazed.
Once upon a time, in the summer of 1930, came a tough little guy. He was rough, he was tumble, and he'd spit in your eye. Born in the mountains, raised by a bear, a cast iron belly with a double coat of hair. He had a great childhood, he adored his mom and dad, and although times were tough, he was grateful for what they had. Times were simple then, not like today. No TVs, few toys. That was just the way. Mile-long walks to Baldwin's Pond for a swim, or playing with a jackknife and seeing whose knife stuck in. Kids called dibs to suck on an apple core, and with meatloaf shaped like different animals, dinner was never a bore. This guy, his name was Dave, and he was known as a rascal to many. There are stories of times he got in trouble, which were plenty. Dave was handsome and strong, a striking young man. He was rarely seen without a dark tan. He became a fisherman, a hunter, a woodsman tried and true, a hard worker, a jokester who saluted the red, white, and blue. As he grew up and started to date, little did he know he'd soon meet his life's mate. The sight was Black Pond on that fateful day, when Ida brought Mert across Dave's way. Dave was smitten as Mert looked her best, but with a gangster, she thought, Mert was not impressed. But lucky for us all, she gave him a chance as his deep blue eyes put her into a trance. They dated for a while, but with others they did too, until Dave parked in her driveway and said, "I'm the one for you." Going steady it was, and the light turned to love, but the army had a draft, and off to war he was shoved.
Off to war he went, but she had a chest of hope. For Dave, as we know, is certainly no dope. He fought hard in Korea, yet talk of this was small. He was proud, yet humble, and didn't speak much of it at all. But his bravery was proven by all of his medals he earned. And for him, true patriotism is something we learned. He gave his all overseas, but home is where his heart lied. He was so happy to get back to his soon-to-be bride.
The wedding day was August 1st, 1953, and the reception at Old Mill was the place to be. The honeymoon started with the Florida sun, surf, and sand, and 9 months later, along came Jan. In an apartment they lived on Center Street downtown. But don't you worry, Dave always treated Mert like she wore a crown. He adored his precious lady as he called her Mert the Squirt, or kumquat was a term of endearment he would often blurt.
A couple years later, off to Gilbert Road they flew, only to bring home a baby named Sue. But they did not stop there, as you already knew, moved to Chimney Hill, where young David finished the crew. Now, growing up with a guy like Dave for a dad made the luckiest childhood 3 kids could have had. Anyone can tell you what a wonderful father he proved to be, but hear it from the children themselves, all 3. Janice and Susan loved their father so well, and here are some of their stories to tell.
We girls had our emotional times through the years, and Dad's strong shoulder was always there to dry up our tears. He was always there to listen when we were feeling blue, and when we completely fell apart, he acted as the glue. Like Jan's nursing school phone calls that tied up the line. Despite the huge phone bills, Dad never whined. Or the night of the prom, when Jan had no date, Dad said, "I've got something planned for you, just wait." He drove around town in all of the snow and picked up my friends and said, "Let's go." We had a sleepover that will stay with me forever. We called it the Reject Party. Dad can be so clever. Susan also has a memory of a party Dad threw. It was her high school graduation, and Dad knew just what to do. Some called it a mini Woodstock. That was the name. Dad sure knew how to throw a party. Hundreds of people came. He was quite the entertainer and made sure everyone had fun, and it wasn't until the next day that everything was done. Dad was our hero. He was also our friend, and when it came to family values, he just wouldn't bend. Growing up, we saw Dad treat Mom so well that we married men like him, which he thought was just swell. But even with a husband so wonderful and sweet, Sue, with 4 kids, was grateful to be just across the street. And here are some childhood memories from David for you. They sound like a fairy tale, but believe us, they're true.
Deep in the woods of New Hampshire, there was a rock near an old bus. Dad said, someone made this rock special for us. It was concave in the middle and filled with pine needles, you see. Made a warm, snuggly spot for my dad and me. We'd look up at the sky and talk about nature, the stars, moose, and porcupines, or any little creature. I'll always remember this place my dad called the Pocket. A great memory is made for a boy called the Crockett.
And then there was the time when I was 9, Dad put me in a sleeping bag on a stand in a tree, and we whispered about hunting and archery. Everything I learned was because of my dad. He said, be good to your wife, and you'll be glad you had. Put your family first and always have class. Take pride in your work, do nothing half-assed.
And then there were grandchildren, 8 plus Tommy and Sean to be exact, and now 8 great grandchildren round out the pack. They all have memories as well that range near and far, such as Poppie's storytelling of Come Here, Come On. Or ask him about the boy that he saved and the day he was honored with a great big parade. Poppie the magical snake charmer was a sight you just had to see. The turban on his head made quite the memory. But it was the sayings and quips that really made our pops. At one time or another, he busted your chops. If you needed help finding something, he had a really cool way, and we kids use this saying almost every day. Look under K if you can't find your key, but if it's your purse that you're missing, then look under P. He would put the boys to work, and he wanted it done just the right way. I'm not hollering at you, I'm just teaching you, is what he would say.
He loved hugs and kisses from the little tykes. Thanks. Sorry. No. But don't get too close or you might be yelling yikes. He'd grab your nose or pull your toes, but to him it was all good fun. His time with us was all that mattered when the day was done. Although stories of Poppie the jokester range far and wide, this poem wouldn't be complete without his sentimental side. Spending time as a family was always priority #1, for with no one else could you have so much fun. Poppie started traditions for each holiday, and the memories that were made in our hearts, they will stay. Whether it was his millennium celebration or his meals Christmas Eve, who knew what Easter tricks he had up his sleeve? The great Easter egg hunt will go down in history like the time the rooster fell out of the tree. The hunt grew bigger and bigger as years passed, but no hunt will ever be greater than Poppie's last. Whoever would have expected in a million years that Poppie, the old wise chicken, would actually appear? But he wouldn't allow it to be only a few times a year that such memories be made with his near and dear. I want a getaway for my family to escape, he thought,
So up to New Hampshire he went, and on top of Roe Mountain he bought. The camp brought its own memories so bright, like when Garrett and Tommy woke to quite a fright. Poppie rigged a fake bear alarm that only he himself could pull. The boys were screaming their heads off, but we thought it was hysterical. And don't forget the hidden bear cave in which Paul braved the night, or the lovely teepee that everyone painted with delight.
Our story comes to a close now, and as you can see, the character in our story, Dave, loved his family. And while looking at them all, to his wife he said, "Look at what we did. We made a story to be read." And writing this story about our Poppie was no easy feat. It's impossible to capture everything about a guy so neat. He was unlike any other person ever was. Not a soul could compare. Bet your ass no one does. So Poppie, we hope that our words were a big enough expression of the legacy you left behind, your impact on us, the ultimate impression. Your magical spirit will live on far across the land through a wife, 3 kids, your grands and great-grands. We know hunting, fishing, and club shed made you smile wide, but nothing melted your heart greater than your beautiful bride. So don't worry, Pops, about your one true love down below. Meme's in good hands now, and will get the royal treatment she should know. Please don't ever fret. Your life will never be in vain, because you've taught us all something important that we will work to maintain. Don't waste time not living, not laughing, or not smiling today, but rather love unconditionally, giggle, and most importantly, play. We know you are smiling down on us and wanting none of us to cry, but instead we should party life, jump, soar, and fly. What a wonderful world, you would often say. So thank you, thank you. It was you who made it that way. So shine up those muscles and get your strut ready to roll, for they have been up there in anticipation, waiting for your beautiful soul. Your memory lives on, and through generations will never fade. So march away, the angels throw you a parade.
Did you like your reject party?
happy. I'm singing.